Looks like we got a review for you today. Let's check it out. Alright, so let's give you guys a little bit of backstory on the Arccaptain welder review. So I got contacted maybe 2 months ago on one of my videos. They left a comment and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing their machine. At the time I was a little skeptical because I'm not real big on cheap equipment. But I've seen a couple other of reviews online for the Arccaptain welder. It seems like a fairly decent machine for the money. It is an entry-level machine. I ended up responding to the message on YouTube and I said, well, what do I need to do to review the machine? And then we started communicating through email. They've been great to work with. So as we talked back and forth, the person that I was communicating with, I made it very clear that if I was going to review the machine, I would give an honest, straight-up review. And I wouldn't hold back. I'd tell them everything I hate about it, everything I love about it, and is that what you want? And they said, yeah, that is what I want. So I said, okay. And I said, now I'm going to keep in mind that I do understand that this is an entry-level machine. And I will review it as an entry-level machine. It wouldn't be fair if you were to put this machine up against the Miller 255 or something like that, because that's like a Ford Pinto racing a Ferrari. It's just not the same. It's not a fair comparison. So we're going to do this review today. This is a review on an entry-level machine. We're going to do the review on this Arccaptain MIG 200. We're going to open it up. Let's unbox it right now and see what they give us. Ground clamp. We'll give you guys a closer look of all the components here. There's a gas hose, MIG gun, stinger lead. Here's some drive rollers, some tips for the MIG gun, consumables. We've got an adapter cord here that goes from 120 to 240. We've got a user manual, and then we've got the actual machine. First thing I'm seeing here, this door, hope you guys can see that. This door is completely bent. I'm sure that's something that happened in shipping, but it is bent. So I'm going to have to tweak that back. Not sure how I get... This is interesting. Make sure you smash your finger when you're putting that door back on. Okay, so I think it's okay, but it looked like somebody gave it a swift punt right to the side here. So we got that straightened up. That's good. There is a chart here on the inside of the door for your settings. Shows you what to run for polarity. The drive roll system looks decent. Cable. It is pretty light gauge cable, so I'm interested to see how it does at higher amps. If you look at the back end of the machine, there's where you hook your gas in. on-off switch, fan. The front of the machine, I actually do like those knobs. I like that there's actually distinguished, I don't want to say clicks, but kind of a click. The buttons have a very distinct click. I like that. Just has a DIN style connector here on the front, and it looks like you plug it in here depending on what you're running, depending on what polarity. So you just switch that cable. So we'll probably start by running MIG, but let's go through all the rest of the stuff that comes with it. Stinger cable seems decent. Connectors seem good. Again, it is lighter gauge, which, you know, if you're running something small like 6010, it's nice not having to drag around that big heavy cable. The Stinger feels decent. There's some slop in the jaws. It's definitely got a stiff spring. Definitely not made for you Bud Light drinkers. So it seems decent. So it looks like it comes with a wrench that you can use to tighten the tips. So the nozzle is a push-on style. I don't mind that. I do like that it comes with a wrench. That's pretty cool. There is an O-ring on here, so you probably want to moisten that. That hooks in nice. Ground cable. That's not near as stiff. You could probably get away drinking Bud Light using that. Okay, that should be ready to go for MIG. So one thing I do notice, it does not come with a regulator. So you are going to have to pick up a regulator if you're going to run gas with it. Looks like there is a warranty card here. Comes with a QR code, and it says there's a 24-month warranty. So that's pretty good. This comes with about a 5-foot cable. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You got about a 5-foot cable. They didn't send me any wire, so I believe I've got some Harbor Freight flux cord wire. We'll throw that in here and we'll run a test on some flux core. Gasless flux core wire. It's the Vulcan brand from Harbor Freight 035 wire. So we'll throw this in here. I am impressed with how light the machine is. Okay, so I'm just kind of winging this, but I've pulled off this larger spool adapter, and it looks like if you do that you can run the smaller spools. Okay, so one of the first things I notice here, they don't have any imperial measurements on this. It's all in metric, which makes it confusing for us who have lived our whole life in the US. That makes it a little complicated. So we're just gonna wing it. So the drive roller has a keyway in it. Alright, so the wire's in. I'm gonna plug it in on 110 and we'll see if we can get the wire fed through the gun, get it all set up, and we'll take a look at the front of the machine. Alright, so the display's pretty nice. Digital. Again, it is metric, so it does tell you what to run it, luckily. Alright, okay, alright, we're figuring this out. So there's a knurled drive roller here that you're supposed to use with flux core wire, which, that's true. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a look here what the machine looks like inside. So there is a knob here on the drive roller. That's pretty nice. Okay, so that's all set up. Now that that's set up, we'll go ahead and start feeding the wire through the gun. Okay, so there's the liner and the wire. Okay, wires through. Okay. So now let's look at our adjustment here. So we got 3mm running flux core wire. We got to figure out what the metric size of wire is. 0.889. So I'm saying that's close to 9 if you round up, right? So 9mm. Settings need to be 20 and 6.5. We are on MIG. You can see if you change mode, it goes from stick, TIG, TIG. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know it did TIG. If we ever end up getting a foot pedal, we'll try the TIG out as well. Alright guys, I've got the Arccaptain set up over here on 240 volt. We're going to start there. I've got 2 coupons here, 10 gauge. We're going to tack this up and we're going to run it in 240 first, see how it runs. Then we'll go ahead and hook it up to 120 and see how it runs on the lower voltage stuff. So let's do it. Alright, here goes nothing. Okay, I'm actually fairly impressed with how that ran. It seemed fairly smooth. Now granted, this is gasless flux core wire from Harbor Freight, but it seemed to run pretty smooth. So I'll hit this with a grinder and give you guys a look. I'll tell you what, for just a backyard welder, that runs pretty good. I mean, you can see there's no pinholes in that one. Ran nice and smooth. So now I'm going to switch over to 120. We'll run another coupon and we'll see how it runs. Alright, so we got our coupon here. So we've got our welder set up for 120 volt. It's the same settings, but it's plugged into 120 volts. So let's see how it does compared to 240 volts. Fire in the hole. Okay, well, we just tripped the breaker. So if you want to avoid tripping the breaker, I guess you're going to have to turn it down. Now, that was the settings for 11 gauge. Chances are, if you're going to weld 11 gauge or higher, you're probably going to have to run it on 240. Unless you're doing something like just running little stitch welds. I mean, I made it 3/4 of the way on here, but it did trip the breaker. So you just need to keep that in mind. If this is a welder that you're looking at getting, you need to know what your limitations are. So let's knock the slag off this and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so here's the thing. It does look really good, but it's not going to do you much good if it trips out on you. So you just need to know your limitations with the welder. If you're going to be welding lighter gauge than 11 gauge, you're probably okay on 110 volt. As far as the way the welder runs, I am pretty impressed. That's probably the smoothest gasless flux core wire I've ever ran, to be honest. It seems like the inverter works fairly well. So far, I'm pretty impressed. That's about as far as we're going to make it tonight. I wanted to do the gasless flux core test first on 120 and 240 volt, which we've done now. So the next thing is, I think tomorrow we're going to hook the gas up to it and we're going to run solid wire and see how it goes. We're going to call it a night. I'm going to go in and eat dinner and we'll see you guys back out here tomorrow night. Alright guys, so we're back out here tonight. I want to give a quick update. So kids went and checked the mail. Come to find out, this stuff was a day later than the welder, so they did send me some wire. And they sent me a TIG torch. So we will be able to test TIG, MIG, gasless flux core MIG, and stick. So we'll be able to test 4 processes on this machine. I would say for an entry-level machine, so far this machine is definitely showing some capability to help somebody get started in welding. So I did end up having a spool of Lincoln 035 solid wire. So we're going to go ahead and throw this in the machine and start getting it set up, and we'll run a test on it. Alright, we're going to see how this goes. I've adjusted my settings. Let's see how it goes. Let's run one, see how it does. Well, it runs pretty dang smooth. Let's try it there. That's 20 volts and 157 inches a minute, or whatever the metric conversion is. So let's see how this other side runs, running a little hotter. That definitely ran a lot better. I could tell there was a lot more penetration in that one. You can see it ran really good. There's hardly any spatter on there. You can see I got a lot better penetration on this side than I did that side. Honestly, pretty impressed. That actually ran really smooth. I can tell you that I do think this would be a great machine for a kid to start on once you know what the controls are. And the MIG gun is just the right size for a kid. I'm going to have Bridger run some coupons on this, get some practice in. So now we've got our solid wire MIG, our gasless flux core wire. The next thing we're going to do is stick weld. We'll get it switched over and we'll run a coupon with some stick. Alright guys, so I got the stick hooked up. I just unplugged this one, plugged the stick lead into the DINS outlet right here. I think what I want to do, I've got 2 more coupons here. I want to run a 6010 on one side and a 7018 on the other. We got it set at 85 amps, so we're going to tack this and then we'll run one. So let's see how this goes. Alright, here we go. Alright, there's something it didn't like there. It was like it was welding in pulses. Even though it was pulsing, it still, it fused it together. It doesn't look the greatest. You can see where I was whipping and where it was pulsing, but it still welded it. It just doesn't like it or something. For some reason it does not like 6010. So maybe this welder is just not built for 6010. I don't know. So I want to see how this 7018 does. Okay, so we're going to run a piece of 332 7018 at 85 amps. Here we go. That actually ran pretty dang smooth. We'll let that cool for a second. Okay, I'm pretty impressed with the 7018. I mean, that was pretty smooth, honestly. Ran good, didn't have any issues. It doesn't feel like it's pulsing or anything. Alright, so we got our stick coupon. This is Flux core MIG, solid wire MIG. So all that's left to do now is to test the TIG. I'll get the TIG torch all set up and figured out. We'll roll a bottle of argon over here and we'll run a test on a coupon and see how it does. So far, I'm pretty impressed. For the price of this machine and the capabilities that it has, for somebody starting out, I think honestly it's a great machine. We'll catch up with you guys tomorrow and we'll run some TIG. Alright, so now all that's left to test on the welder is the TIG function. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this TIG torch out. We'll get it all set up and then we'll give it a test on some coupons just like we did the other processes. So go ahead and get this set up. It looks pretty straightforward. This is an air-cooled setup, so it's just got a DIN style connector on it. This gets plugged into your gas. We'll get this all set up and then we'll give you guys a look. Okay guys, I got a couple pieces of plate here. We're going to do another T-joint. So I'm assuming this is just a scratch start. We're going to find out right now. The way a scratch start rig works is you got a valve on the back here. Crack that open. The gas starts flowing and then you scratch your tungsten and that starts the arc and then you just weld like normal. So we're going to go ahead and tack this up first, see how it runs. I've got it set at 95 amps. We'll see what happens. Oh yeah. Okay, so we got it tacked up. Let's see how she runs. I may turn it up a little bit. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so it's actually a pretty smooth arc. It is a little cold, so I'm going to turn it up. So I'm at 105 amps now. Let's see how it goes. Just so you guys know, I am using a gas lens on this one. I prefer to use a gas lens when I TIG weld. I just think you get better coverage and every little bit helps. So let's try it again. Well, I gotta say, it's pretty smooth. It looks good. I could tell I was getting good penetration. When you do snap out, you need to have a little bit more of an aggressive snap out. Otherwise, I don't know if you guys could tell, but it ended up long arcing to the table when I was trying to snap out. So you gotta be a little more aggressive with it, I think. Okay, so here's the first side I did. Turned out good. Here's the second side. This side was welded with 115 amps. Okay, so here's a look at our TIG welds. Solid wire MIG welds. Gasless flux core. And our stick welding. So you guys can be the judge. Okay, so let's just do a recap real quick of what we've done. So I've tested this machine on the TIG function, solid wire MIG with gas, gasless flux core, and stick welding. So those 4 processes I tried. This particular model, which is the MIG 200, they advertise it as a 6-in-1 welder. The other 2 things that they claim that it does is spool welding, which I'm sure it does if you buy the spool gun. And it says spot welding. Personally, I really don't count spot welding as another process. It does have a spot welding function, so maybe that's why it lists that, but honestly, the main functions are the 4, in my opinion. So my official review of this machine is, of the 4 processes I tried, being an entry-level machine. This review is reviewing this machine as an entry-level machine. When you look at the price of this machine for what it's capable of doing, it's pretty impressive, really. You know, the average person that's wanting to get into welding, I do think it's a great opportunity for them. This would be a good machine for them to get started, to even see if you like welding, to even use for repairs around your house, to just keep in your garage where it's got dual voltage. You need to know that it does have its limits. And if you're going to run it on 110, that cuts the limits in half. So you need to know that if you are going to run this machine, you will be better off running it on 240 versus 120. My advice would be to run it on 240. That's pretty much always my advice. Welders just run better on higher voltages. So on Amazon, this welder is advertised at $3.99. That comes with the MIG gun, the stinger, and a ground clamp. If you would like to use the TIG function, you'll have to purchase a TIG torch. But I would say that's still a pretty dang good deal. If you are interested in buying this machine, they have given me the opportunity to offer you an extra 5% off. To get the extra 5% off, use the discount code. I'll leave it below here. I would be interested to hear what you guys think, what your opinions are, if you do happen to purchase the machine. That's pretty much my honest opinion. I think it's a great entry-level machine. Obviously, I can't tell you what the longevity is and what the durability is. The screen seems quality. The fan seems pretty powerful to keep it cool. The internals of the machine seem decent. It is an entry-level machine. It's a budget machine. And I do think it would be worth the $400 that you would spend to be able to experience 4 different processes of welding, use it around your house. I do think it's worth what they're asking for it. So that's going to be our review of the Arccaptain MIG 200. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope that anybody out there that's interested in maybe trying out welding or shopping for a machine that's an entry-level machine that can fit within most people's budgets, check them out, and thanks for watching. See you on the next one. That's not what happened. I ended up finding their message, and they don't need to know all this. Goodness. I'm rambling. And you know, I'm not real big on it's nice not having to drag around that big heavy. So MIG, gasless self-shielding arc welding. So you got MIG Stig and MIG Stig. Yeah. Alright guys, so we've got some plate here.